Welcome back. Softened out for the equity markets, so now holding out at about 14,196. Pretty much where we started off, although the broader markets, that mojo is really continuing with the strength within the mid and the small caps. Well, let's focus in on the auto space. Tata Motors in particular, that stock in the last 3 months has gained about 45%. There have been a number of triggers with respect to their cost saving, the strong car lineup that's planned, as well as the Brexit overhang that now seems to be resolved. So what's the road ahead looking like for Tata Motors, and can we see product gaps in the portfolio, as well as what is the outlook on their EV push? Hormazd Sorabjee, editor Autocar India, now joins in to discuss that and lots more. Good to have you on board. Happy New Year, Hormazd. And if we look at the last few months with the sales that we've seen, the upcoming launches, refreshes, do you think it'd be right to say that Tata Motors is now back in the game?
Yeah, I think, it's really been, I would say, the hero of the auto industry, because they've come back against a lot of odds, actually, because, I think we need to be very clear that unlike, let's say, the Koreans and other manufacturers, Tata Motors doesn't have a full model range as yet. There are a lot of product gaps. They're not operating in many core segments of the market, like the mid-size SUVs. They're not too strong on petrol at the high end. They're not there at the lower end of the market where Maruti is. But despite all that, they've achieved stellar numbers, absolutely outstanding. And I think what has happened is that the brand is now starting to come of age. There's several factors to it. Tata Motors has finally nailed the quality bogey, which had really plagued the company for decades. The products are much better. In fact, I was there at the Harrier plant, some weeks ago, just to see that absolute focus they have now on just getting things right first time round. So I think there's a change in mindset also. I think it's no surprise also the turnaround has come with a new person at the head of passenger vehicle, Shailesh Chandra. In fact, we've named him our Autocar Professional Man of the Year because we think he's largely steered the turnaround. I think what's been done is also the dealers have been motivated, which really wasn't there in the past. The dealers have been made more profitable. So to be honest, it's just doing some of the basics right. There's nothing that's one thing that's been revolutionary in a way, but it's just focusing on the basics, making sure that the products are firing on all cylinders. Products like the Harrier, which didn't have an automatic, it now has an automatic, a big sunroof, which is what people want. In fact, I've heard that around 65% of Harrier buyers are buying it with a sunroof. So that just tells you what, something like that does to sales. So a lot of basics got right, a good focus on what needs to be done. I think that's really the story of what's happening on the passenger side for these fantastic numbers.
So, Hormazd, what do you think is really powering this demand for Tata Motors? You've been testing, you've been reviewing their models for quite some time. So, how have the new models evolved in terms of tech, in terms of design? Are they up to speed?
I think in terms of design, they definitely are. In fact, I think great design is what is really driving the appeal of these products. In terms of tech, yes, they are there, but to be honest, they are behind the Koreans in certain key areas, which is really the electrical architecture, the connectivity, that sort of stuff. That's still not there. They are a generation behind. I think they are making up with that in sheer value in terms of, let's say, the way the cars drive and feel. They have a certain solid feel to them. That is there. The interiors are now much better. And I think they have certain, let's say, key advantages in offering value, especially at the lower end of the compact SUV segment. The Nexon has done particularly well there. And again, moving up, the Harrier, giving a diesel automatic. It's the only diesel automatic really in its segment right now, which so I think, or the main diesel automatic in its segment, that's really giving it sales. But yes, I would say that there are still a lot of gaps. There's still a lot of catching up for Tata Motors to do. But, I think based on the current success that they've had, I think that should be the next target, is to fill certain of those product gaps. They don't have a strong engine portfolio for one, and they don't have, as I said, the what we call the ENE architecture, electric and electronic architecture, is needs to be upgraded to take the new suite of connected features that a lot of competition has. But I'm sure they're working on this, and at least it's a great turnaround story, and I'm just totally amazed by what's been achieved.
I was just going to come to that, Hormazd, because there have been several firsts and iconic models from the house of Tatas, starting off with the Safari, Indica, even Nano for that matter. How's the company leading innovation now, and will affordable EVs be its new forte?
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's right. And I think we missed out on that one, which is the Nexon EV, which is the best-selling EV that there is. Again, that company they just came and leapfrogged the competition or whatever there is to be the best-selling EV. But to be honest, I'm a little skeptical on EVs as something to bet your future on. I mean, you can't be out of EVs, but I don't think you can immediately bet your future on that. Not in India, not for a long term. In fact, I just came back from Mahabaleshwar, and getting there, I nearly got stuck. I had to stop and charge in Panchgani, really ran out of charge. So, I mean, I know the reality of, you running an EV, and we took it long distance. So I think that's going to be far away. It's good to be there. But as I said, I wouldn't bet on EVs as a future strategy in a long, long time. But I think they've just got their basics right now. And that's really getting all their products to deliver to their full potential. And again, motivating the dealer network, managing the supply chain. Making cars is a very complex business. Of course, the product has to be king, but now that's really a sort of a hygiene factor. You've got to kind of get all the other pieces to be in sync. And I think that's what's happening. I think that's also what the new leadership is doing.
Okay, that's great. Hormazd, given that you did test an EV and, drove from Mahabaleshwar to Mumbai, give us a first-hand experience of how complicated and how cumbersome it is actually to drive an EV. Because, the first point, or rather the first critical point was that the infrastructure cannot support it. Tell me some of the hurdles that you actually faced. Yeah,
absolutely. So all these EV evangelists, they need to go on a long-distance drive, to understand, what the challenges are. Well, we took the Mercedes EQC, packed the family with luggage, everything. The range said 360 kilometers, Mahabaleshwar just 280 kilometers. So you think that, hey, that's okay. But what happens is that there are three inclines, there are three ghats to go over. Mahabaleshwar is at 4,000 feet, and the uphill uphill driving really killed the range. So, I mean, metaphorically also, it's an uphill struggle for EVs, but which is in reality as well. But coming back, no problem, because we were going downhill, and then when you can course regeneration, made it no problem going downhill at all. It was absolutely fine. The range was sufficient, made it to Mumbai in around 4 hours, 4 hours, 20 minutes with enough kilometers to spare. But, it's very difficult to gauge. And what you really miss are, let's say, fast chargers along the highway. You just need one fast charger. People say they're coming. I just hope they do. But you just needed one fast DC charger to kind of make that journey a little less stressful or a little less possible. So going up, I got to Panchgani, realized I had no charge at all. I was going to get stuck. I called up my friend at Prospect Hotel. He's the owner of Prospect Hotel. I said, hey, listen, I'm not going to make it. Can I just plug in and charge? I use an old-fashioned 15 amp charger, which is really, really slow. So I had to be there for 2 hours just to get 15 kilometers extra range, which would have been enough. I mean, it was the 2 hours well spent. He gave me a fantastic lunch. So that was good. But the total journey time was 9.5 hours. I think the longest I've done, which included a 2-hour compulsory kind of emergency stop. So that's really the reality of it. But as I said, coming back, it was fine. But, you can't be going on drives with this unpredictability of, the way EVs perform right now. We had traffic in the Katraj tunnel. There was a jam over there. So that really, again, added to it. But, when you don't have that kind of confidence or comfort that you can just stop and charge up somewhere, it becomes very, very difficult to use EVs as anything other than a city car. As city cars, they're absolutely fine. No problem at all. We've been running a Kona EV for about a year now, and we've had no issues at all. But taking it out of town, not practical until you have even a basic fast DC charging setup.
Good to get in that first-hand experience from you. But tell me, does Tata Motors have the infrastructure and the ability to become the Aam Aadmi's Tesla?
So I think well, a lot of people are they do, but I think it's a costly business. For example, I don't think EVs are for the Aam Aadmi. That's the reality of it. EVs are for rich people because just the cost of putting out an EV is very expensive, and whatever people say that it is even the running cost eventually will come down to what an IC engine is. I think that'll be a while. Again, Tata Motors has done a great job by really positioning their Nexon EV as in terms of running, you factor in running costs, it comes really, really close to an Nexon IC engine. So that is definitely there, but I don't know what the margins are on that. I can't imagine it's a very profitable kind of product to meet those sort of cost structures and just to meet the economics of it. So I think we've got to be realistic on it. Yes, EVs will come, but I think we've got to be taking a much more measured approach in this direction. And I think two things are: the costs have to come down, and we need to have the infrastructure in place before it really takes off.
Amongst the recent launches from Tata Motors, Hormazd, which ones do you think stand out? In the new launches, particularly, do you feel that perhaps the pipeline has what it takes to really put Tata Motors back up there in the global pecking order?
So I think the one which has really impressed me the most is the Harrier. It's actually a variant of the Harrier. The Harrier started, it was 2 years back it was launched, but they launched the new one, the upgraded one with an automatic gearbox, a panoramic sunroof, and it had certain niggles at the start. It's all been sort of ironed out. So I think the Harrier is the one which has impressed me the most as a product. It's based on a Land Rover platform. But why it's also impressed me is that the numbers it's selling above 2,000 units a month comfortably. Now that is astounding, not for one reason, is that for a Tata product to command such a premium and sell in such numbers. I mean, don't forget these products go close to 17, 18, 20 lakhs. So depending on the spec. So for people to have the confidence to put in a Tata product with that sort of money, I think that the big breakthrough, because otherwise the perception was that they're good cars, but they're at the lower end of the market, good value for money, but not of great quality. But when someone is spending this kind of money, they kind of look at a product which delivers on a lot on the premium front, and I think that's what the Harrier has achieved. I think the Altroz also is a new launch that's also done well. I think the Altroz has taken advantage of the fact that it came at a time when of BS6, when a lot of the competition exited the diesel BS6 segment. Now, a lot of people say there's no market for that, is shrinking, but it's still a sizable market. So you had Honda going out with their diesel, you had Maruti going out with their diesel, you had Volkswagen going out with the diesel Altroz competitor. So and even Hyundai wasn't there for the better part of the year until the new i20 launch. So the Altroz really was the only diesel premium hatchback in the segment, and it took full advantage of that. Of course, it's going to have competition now with the new i20, but I think these two models have been the two real drivers of the new numbers. And of course, you've had that's had a rub-off effect on the other models. You've had the existing Nexon, which again with BS6 didn't just have an engine upgrade. They were clever enough to do a few more tweaks and details and refine it further. And that's been across their range. So clearly they've used BS6 not just as an engine upgrade, but also to upgrade their products to a certain extent. Interestingly, no real new model launches other than the Altroz. So that again, makes their achievement even that much more remarkable, that it's not really been on the back of a flurry of all new models. But as I said, it's just getting the basics right, putting their head down, focusing, and doing what should have been done many years ago.
All right, Hormazd, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us. Always a pleasure.
Happy New Year.